Right, let's get into this, because what happened with Rangers and Pilsen was more than just a tricky European night. It was a moment that peeled back the curtain on some deeper issues, some cracks that can't be ignored anymore. Yes, the team is through to the next round of Champions League qualifiers, but progression came at a price. And for one player in particular, it might have been the final straw. The clash with Victoria Plzen was supposed to be a formality. Rangers walked into the second leg holding a comfortable 3-goal advantage from the first tie at Ibrox, and yet they almost threw it away. Sloppy on the ball, vulnerable at the back, and lacking that killer instinct going forward. It was a night full of warning signs, and Russell Martin didn't try to sugarcoat anything in the aftermath. Speaking to the press post-match, Martin was visibly disappointed, not just with the result, but with how his team handled the pressure. He openly admitted they were far too careless in possession, especially when trying to play out from the back under pressure. Victoria, with nothing to lose, pushed high with intensity, sending 4 players to press at times, and Rangers simply didn't manage that well enough. And while the manager recognized that the team were able to play through that press during parts of the first half, getting into the final third frequently, what happened next was the real issue. Time after time, the ball was given away cheaply. There was a clear disconnect between the effort it took for the backline and Jack Butland to build attacks, and how quickly it all unraveled once the forwards got involved. Martin didn't hold back. He said he told the attackers it wasn't fair on the defenders taking risks under pressure, only for the ball to be handed back with such little resistance. Losing the ball because you're trying something bold is one thing, but losing it without even showing care or fight, that's where frustration turns into something more serious. Now, despite all of that, Rangers did manage to find a way back into the match. After going behind, they responded, equalized, and for a brief spell looked like they'd wrestled back control. But that was short-lived. The intensity dropped, the sharpness faded, and the attitude shifted from chasing a result to trying to see the game out. That kind of mental switch, especially at a club like Rangers, is a massive red flag. You can never relax, Martin said. And he's absolutely right. This is not a club where you can switch off just because you've got a cushion. Every minute has to be played with purpose, with intensity, with responsibility. That's the standard, and anything less is unacceptable. In the dying moments of the match, there were some positives. Players like Kieran, Nedim, and Danilo started protecting the ball better, holding possession in the opposition half, slowing things down. That's the kind of maturity Martin wants to see more consistently. But on a night where Rangers should have been cruising, they instead found themselves clinging on. The real sting, though, came from what could have been. Rangers had a series of counterattacks that just fizzled out. 3 versus 2, 4 versus 3, 2 versus 1 situations, and nothing to show for it. That final pass, that decisive moment, just didn't come. Martin was honest about it. The quality wasn't there. So now, attention turns to Club Brugge, and the question was put to Martin. Can Rangers get through if they play like this again? His answer? A firm no. If this team doesn't start showing more care, more quality, more consistency, then it won't matter who the opponent is. They'll struggle against anyone. He rejected the idea that being too attacking cost them control. That wasn't the issue. The issue was wastefulness, because when Rangers did get it right, they looked excellent. But those moments were too few and far between. And the gap between their best and worst phases is still too big. Martin says that will change with time and work. But time isn't something Rangers have in abundance right now. Now, let's talk about Jack Butland. On a night where many struggled, he stood out. Cool under pressure, smart with the ball, brave when it mattered. He's been nothing short of outstanding since joining. Martin said he's taken on information like a sponge and praised his mentality, along with the center halves, who were under immense pressure all night. If the rest of the squad can match their mindset, the team will be in a much better place. But it wasn't all about tactics and mentality. There were physical concerns too. Serial Daces left the stadium in a brace, and the early signs don't look great. Martin said it appeared to be a nasty one, and that they're just hoping the scan doesn't reveal anything too serious. It's a blow, no doubt, especially at this stage of the season when options are already being stretched. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, Jeff Day. A player who on paper should have been part of the future at Ibrox now finds himself under immense scrutiny. Given a start in such a decisive Champions League tie, this was his chance to stake a claim, to prove he belongs in Martin's plans. Instead, it turned into a nightmare. His display was a disaster. From the very beginning, he looked off the pace, uncertain and overwhelmed. He lost his man on the opening goal, looked completely disorganized during Victoria's late surge, and just couldn't get to grips with the game. And the stats only confirmed what the eye could already see. No tackles won, 1 duel out of 3. Just 4 interceptions. For a fullback at this level, that's nowhere near acceptable. It wasn't just the numbers though. The reaction was brutal. Local press gave him a 2 out of 10. Some even questioned how he made it onto the pitch. In the first place, it was a performance that could very well seal his exit from the club, and as it turns out, talks are already underway. Reports suggest that a move back to Brazil could be on the cards, with Palmeiras showing interest. The fee being discussed is somewhere between 4 and 5 million pounds, and while that's not a huge windfall, it might be the best Rangers can get under the circumstances. Because let's be honest, Jeff Day has never truly locked down a starting spot at Ibrox. And with each passing game, the sense grows that he's simply not cut out for this level. But letting him go isn't without risk. If he leaves, Reedham is the only senior left back left in the squad, and he too has been linked with a possible return to his former club in Turkey. That would leave Rangers in a very precarious position. And, with the season already underway, the time to act would be now. Max Aarons could potentially fill in on the left in an emergency, but that's not his natural side. He's a right back through and through, and more likely to be challenging James. Tavernier for minutes on that flank. So if Jeff Day is on his way out, the recruitment team has to move fast. They can't afford to be scrambling for solutions, with both the league and Europe demanding full focus. And let's not forget, Rangers have already had a shaky start in the Scottish Premiership. Any more missteps, and the title race could slip away before it even gets going. Celtic aren't going to wait around, and Martin knows it. Every decision in this window matters. Every outgoing needs to be matched with the right incoming. There's no room for sentiment. It's about getting this squad to the level it needs to be, and fast! Then there's the situation with Nico Raskin, another player who's been making headlines, but for very different reasons. The Belgian midfielder has been the subject of interest from abroad, and while no official bids have landed at the club, there's been plenty of noise. Enough noise, in fact, to rattle the player himself. Martin admitted it's affected Raskin. Not in terms of professionalism, he's still been training and playing with the right attitude, but mentally it's clearly had an impact. It's not easy for a young player to ignore speculation, especially when agents and intermediaries are whispering in their ears. And while he started the season in the first 11, his recent omissions have raised eyebrows. He was left out for the first leg against Victoria and then benched again for the league draw with Dundee. But when he came on, he made a difference. A real difference. Martin noticed, and he was full of praise. He said Raskin's reaction to being dropped was spot on. Professional, determined, and exactly what he wants to see from someone fighting for their place. Martin clearly rates him highly, not just as a footballer, but as a person. He believes in his talent and sees him as a key part of the future. But whether he's still at Rangers when the window closes remains to be seen. The manager was clear. It would take a monumental offer to tempt the club to sell. They're not looking to offload one of their top performers. Not now. Not when the stakes are this high. And so the pressure builds. On the pitch, off the pitch, in the boardroom, in the stands. The next few weeks will be crucial. Because if Rangers want to catch Celtic, thrive in Europe, and meet the expectations of their fan base, there's no room for more reality checks like the one in Pilsen. And with everything that unfolded in Pilsen still hanging in the air, the focus now turns fully to what lies ahead. The Club Brugge tie is no longer just a European fixture. It's become a litmus test. A chance to see whether this Rangers team has the resilience, the mentality, and the quality to learn from its mistakes, or whether it will continue repeating them in games that matter most. Because if there's one thing that performance made clear, it's that the margin for error at this level is razor thin. Club Brugge is a different animal altogether. Technically gifted, tactically disciplined, and used to the European stage, they'll punish mistakes. And Russell Martin knows that better than anyone. That's why the first leg at Ibrox carries so much weight. It's not just about taking a lead to Belgium. It's about putting in a performance that restores confidence. That settles the nerves, both inside the dressing room and among the support. Because right now, after what happened in the Czech Republic, belief has taken a bit of a knock. And it's not just on the pitch where things are uncertain. The transfer window, as always, looms like a storm cloud. Every day brings a new rumor, a new piece of speculation, and a new challenge for Martin and the board to navigate. The balance between keeping the squad together and strengthening in the right areas has never been more delicate. Players are being watched. Conversations are happening behind the scenes, and the decisions made in these final weeks will shape the rest of the season. Take Ridvan Yilmaz, for example. Still seen by many as the first choice left back, but whispers continue to circle about a potential return to Turkey. Besiktas, his former club, remain interested, and if that move gathers momentum, Rangers could be staring down the barrel of a full-blown crisis on the left side of defense. With Jeff Day already looking halfway out the door and no natural replacement yet lined up, that position is starting to look dangerously exposed. Sure, there are stopgap options in the squad. Max Aarons, as mentioned before, has the physical tools and football intelligence to adapt in an emergency. But asking a right-sided player to operate out of position in high-stakes European games is hardly an ideal scenario. And while the recruitment team has shown they can unearth talent, finding a quality fullback who can slot in immediately is no easy task, especially not when the window is closing fast. Then there's the midfield, where the situation feels slightly more stable on the surface, but underneath it's anything but. Nico Raskin remains a central figure, but the interest from abroad hasn't gone away. The noises are still being made, the phones are still ringing, and the pressure on the club to either extend his deal or cash in is growing with each passing day. Martin's stance remains clear. Raskin is not for sale unless a truly extraordinary offer lands on the table. But the longer this uncertainty lingers, the harder it becomes to manage internally. Players want clarity. They want to know who's staying, who's going, and what kind of squad they're going to be part of for the rest of the campaign. And that matters because this group hasn't had the smoothest start. Dropped points domestically, scrappy performances in Europe, injuries already starting to bite. The schedule doesn't ease up from here, and neither does the expectation. Rangers fans demand results. They expect progress. And while most understand that a new manager or a new system take time, patience only stretches so far, especially when the club across the city continues to pile up wins. Martin has tried to strike the right tone, honest when performances haven't been good enough, encouraging when he sees positives. But he's also made it clear that standards need to rise, that the gap between the team's best and worst moments must shrink. That carelessness on the ball, like what we saw in Pilsen, is simply not acceptable. Because in the Premiership, mistakes cost you goals. In Europe, they cost you ties. And if that lesson isn't learned quickly, the season could begin to unravel before it truly gets going. What complicates things further is the situation with squad depth. Injuries are already testing the limits of this team. The Jesus injury is a major concern, not just for the player, but for the manager's plans. A big physical presence up top, Jesus offers something different to the rest of the attacking options. If he's out for an extended period, it changes the dynamic completely. It puts more pressure on Danilo, who's just returning from his own fitness issues, and it potentially forces Martin to either adjust his tactical setup or rush someone like Zach Lovelace into more minutes than he might be ready for. And then there's the backline. While Butland continues to impress and the center halves have shown encouraging signs, the fullback areas remain a question mark. Tavernier still offers plenty going forward, but he's not immune to fatigue or form dips. And without a settled left back, the defensive unit lacks balance. It's not just about individuals, it's about partnerships, chemistry, understanding where your teammate will be, knowing when to press, when to hold, when to cover. That's built over time. And right now, there's been too much chopping and changing for anything to really stick. In truth, this is a squad still finding its feet, still trying to gel. There have been flashes of what it can become, a high-energy ball-playing side that can dominate possession and break teams down with clever movement and quick transitions. But those flashes need to become habits. Because right now, every time Rangers take a step forward, they seem to follow it with a step back. The Brugge tie then becomes something more than just a European qualifier. It becomes a statement opportunity, a chance to put the Pilsen match behind them and show that they've learned. that they can rise to the occasion when it counts, that they can control a game from start to finish and not just in moments, that they're ready to be taken seriously, but it won't be easy. Brugge are well drilled. They've got pace, they've got creativity, and they're dangerous on the break. Rangers will need to be switched on from the first whistle. No sloppy giveaways, no second half drop-offs, no cheap fouls in dangerous areas. This is the kind of game that's decided by fine margins. One mistake, one moment of brilliance, one lapse in focus. And right now, Rangers can't afford to be on the wrong side of those margins again. There's also the emotional side of it. European nights at Ibrox are special. They carry a weight, an atmosphere, a kind of magic that can lift the players when they need it most. But that only works if the team meets the moment with the right mindset. If they play with courage, with discipline, with a sense of responsibility, the fans will do their part. There's never any doubt about that. But the players have to show they're ready to match that energy. For Martin, this is a defining period. He said from the start that he believes in this group, that they are capable of becoming something special, but belief only gets you so far. It needs to be backed up by performances, by results, by consistency. The league campaign has already shown that points will be dropped if focus slips. Europe is even less forgiving. There's pressure on the recruitment team too. With key areas of the squad still looking thin, the final stretch of the window will be critical. Targets need to be identified, deals need to be done, and there can't be any mistakes. Because the wrong call now could haunt the club for months. Whether it's replacing Jeff Day, reinforcing midfield depth, or adding cover in the wide areas, the time for hesitation is over. But amidst all the pressure, there's also opportunity. Because if this squad can get healthy, if the right reinforcements arrive, and if Martin can tighten things up, there's still everything to play for. The Champions League dream is still alive. The Premiership title is still within reach. And there's a belief, however bruised, that this team can grow into something formidable. The next few games will tell us a lot. Not just about the quality of the squad, but about its character, about how it responds to setbacks, about how it handles adversity. Because every club has bad nights. It's how you bounce back that defines a season. And right now, after Pilsen, Rangers need a response. Not just a result, but a performance. Something to rally around. Something that shows they're still on the right path. The fans need it. The manager needs it. And maybe more than anyone, the players need it to remind themselves what they're capable of when everything clicks. So as the lights get set to shine at Ibrox once again, and the next European test comes into view, the message is simple. No more excuses. No more passengers. This is Rangers, and that shirt demands more. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. In recent days, a murmur has been spreading across the Scottish football landscape, one that has the potential to ignite tensions within Ibrox and ripple far beyond the city of Glasgow. James Tavernier, the Rangers captain and long-standing defensive stalwart, is at the heart of this growing speculation. Whispers from those claiming inside knowledge suggest the Englishman, usually the picture of professionalism, has privately voiced his frustrations about feeling underappreciated at the club he has served for years. According to sources who insist they have heard from individuals close to the dressing room, Tavernier allegedly exclaimed, "They don't value me here," a statement that, if true, marks a stark departure from his usually measured public persona. Though no official confirmation has emerged, the phrase has gained traction on fan forums, with many debating whether this was a heat-of-the-moment comment or a sign of something deeper brewing. Some supporters dismiss the notion entirely, seeing it as classic tabloid bait, while others are taking it more seriously, pointing to his recent body language on the pitch, which they claim has lacked its usual sharpness. It's worth noting that Rangers as an institution has often seen its captains shoulder immense pressure, but seldom do such rumors carry this much emotional charge. The timing of these whispers could hardly be more dramatic, coming at a stage of the season when Rangers are battling to keep pace in a title race while also juggling the demands of European competition. Tavernier, a player whose attacking flair from the right flank has been a hallmark of the club's success in recent years now, finds his name circulating in conversations tinged with doubt and uncertainty. Those who know the inner workings of the club suggest there may be a widening disconnect between the dressing room and certain elements of the boardroom, with Tavernier's role as captain placing him right in the middle of that friction. If his alleged outburst is indeed genuine, it could indicate frustrations over contractual matters, squad reinforcements, or perhaps a perceived lack of appreciation for his loyalty and contribution. On the pitch, his statistics remain among the best for a defender in Scotland, but in football, perception can be just as important as performance. Some pundits have already floated the idea that rival clubs, particularly in the English Championship or lower half of the Premier League, might see an opportunity if relations sour. While no offers are on the table, the prospect alone is enough to keep supporters restless and rivals intrigued. Behind the scenes, Rangers' hierarchy is said to be fully aware of the chatter, even if they've chosen not to address it directly. In public, club insiders speaking under the condition of anonymity hint that there have been closed-door meetings aimed at calming the waters, but the lack of an official statement leaves room for endless interpretation. Some insiders claim that Tavernier's sense of being undervalued is not purely financial, but emotional, rooted in a feeling that his leadership is taken for granted by those in charge. This sentiment, if accurate, could resonate with other long-serving players, potentially creating a quiet undercurrent of discontent. Meanwhile, rival journalists are circling the story, eager to either confirm or debunk the alleged remarks, knowing that any shift in the Rangers captain's future could be seismic for the Scottish game. The dressing room itself appears split. While some teammates reportedly sympathize with him, others prefer to keep their focus on the fixtures ahead. For now, training continues as normal, but seasoned observers know that such speculation has a way of seeping into performances, whether consciously or subconsciously. Without a clear message from Tavernier himself, the speculation is likely to intensify with each passing match day. For the fans, the uncertainty is a bitter pill. James Tavernier is more than just a player to the Ibrox faithful. He's a symbol of consistency through managerial changes, squad overhauls, and the emotional highs and lows of Scottish football. To imagine him unhappy, or worse, contemplating life away from Rangers is unsettling for many who see him as integral to the club's identity. On social media, supporters are split between rallying behind their captain with messages of loyalty and criticizing the club's leadership for potentially failing to keep its starman content. Some recall similar episodes in football where a single rumor spiraled into a full-blown transfer saga, changing the course of a season entirely. Others point to Tavernier's professionalism and insist that he would never allow off-field issues to compromise his performance on match day. Still, history shows that when a trusted leader feels undervalued, the ripple effects can reach deep into the heart of a squad. For now, the mood is tense, with the next few weeks likely to be decisive in determining whether this story fades into nothing more than gossip or escalates into something that alters the captain's trajectory permanently. The bigger picture, however, is that this situation may speak to a wider challenge facing Rangers as they look to maintain dominance in a fiercely competitive environment. Retaining key players, especially those with the experience and influence of Tavernier, is vital not only for on-field results but for the stability of the dressing room culture. If there's even a shred of truth to the claims that the captain feels underappreciated, the club's leadership will need to act swiftly and decisively to address the issue before it becomes a fracture. Whether that means renegotiating terms, offering greater involvement in strategic decisions, or simply reinforcing his value through honest dialogue, the solution will require a careful blend of diplomacy and ambition. Rival clubs will be watching closely, sensing vulnerability, and the Scottish media will waste no opportunity to stoke the flames if any hint of unrest emerges publicly. For Tavernier, the coming months could prove pivotal in shaping his legacy at Rangers, whether as a loyal leader who weathered the storm or as a captain whose tenure ended in a cloud of unresolved tension. Until then, the whispers will continue, and Ibrox will remain a place of both passionate devotion and precarious uncertainty. Greetings, fans! Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.